is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled Childhood Favorites, covering The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. In this episode, RoShawn and I are going to discuss a delightful book about the undying, faithful friendship between a mole and a rat, which is periodically interrupted by the frustrating and irritating tales of a selfish, shitty toad whom none of us like. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn. I like Toad, all right.
Toad sucks.
He's the worst of the group, but we all have a Toad, right? Like, you can't go through life without a Toad.
I guess.
Yeah, we all have them. I mean, and if you don't...
If I can't think of who the Toad is, am I the Toad?
You might be the Toad.
Oh, no. I don't like this at all.
So, you guys listening to Natasha, who's hosting, let me tell you that when I agreed to co-host, because you didn't have anybody.
Correct.
Right? I confused this story with The Adventures of Toad and Frog, which is an entirely different children's book by an entirely different writer. And now that I've read this again, I haven't read Wind in the Willows since I was a little girl. I can't believe how, similar they are, and that no one got sued.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I've read Adventures of Toad and Frog. I don't remember that one.
Toad and Frog are, really good friends. It's very similar to this in a lot of ways. And their friendship, they have adventures, and there's been all kinds of writing in the 21st century about how they are actually a same-sex couple.
Nice.
But it's just
I've definitely had that thought with Rat and Mole a lot.
But it's but anyway, so when I started reading this, I was like, wait, what happened to the time they did the thing? And then I was like, oh wait, no, this is a different story.
Yeah, this is so I actually got two versions of the Kindle book because the first one was only $1, and I got it because it was $1. But then you mentioned the illustrations when we were talking last night. Mm-hmm. And there was one that my aunt, she had worked at this really famous bookstore in San Francisco called A Clean, Well-Lighted Place for Books. Oh. And she sent me a gorgeous hardcover of this that was illustrated with these glossy pages and just, a $30 beautiful book. Mm. And I was fascinated by the illustrations, but I was just a tad young to be reading it.
Right.
And it kind of got put on a shelf, and I would take it out and look at the illustrations, but not actually read it. And I don't think I ever got around to reading it. Mm. And when I was looking at the books on Kindle and the various editions that have come out, I found the one that I had. And they have a Kindle edition with the full color illustrations from the book.
How nice.
It was so great. So I downloaded that one. It was $11. And it is gorgeous.
Isn't it?
Oh my God, I'm in love with this thing. I think I'm going to come back to this book as comfort food because there are just some moments in it that I was just like, oh, this is so beautiful. I'm so happy. This has made me so happy.
It is especially your jam, too, because it's English and it's in a certain age and it's very, cottagey feeling. And the descriptions of the meadow and the riverbanks and where all the adventure happens is so lush and so descriptive, and you just kind of feel like you're really there,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely book.
You're really there is definitely how I felt a couple times. I started listening to the audiobook 10 minutes after I dropped you off at the airport. And it starts off with Mole discovering the river. and being taken onto the boat by Rat, and him just falling into this trance of just, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it and I was like, just sitting there like open mouthed in my car because I had to pee so bad. So I stopped at a Michael's because I was like, I may as well shop a little bit while I get my bathroom break. And I sat in my car even though I had to pee so bad because it was coming through the speakers, and I was just listening to this river description like, this is so lovely. Yeah. Oh my God.
I love that the book opens with us in the place of Mole, kind of, like everything's new to him, like it's new to us. I also like the book opens with him just being over cleaning, and that's so just my jam right there. So I like immediately identify with him just being like, enough of this nonsense. It's a beautiful spring day and I'm wasting it with this nonsense of cleaning. And then how good is Rat?
Rat is the MVP, honestly, of this whole story. Like,
yeah, it's true. It's true.
I love Mole. I love Badger. But Rat, just in particular, is like the constant all the time. Yeah.
And
it's really nice because in these stories that are geared towards kids, rats are usually portrayed as like the shifty, like the way the stoats and weasels are in this.
In this,
and I love that he's cute and good.
He's a water vole.
Yeah.
Which I kind of think of as being like otter-like, but I'm not really sure if that's correct.
I don't think so. Let me look up
I never looked it up what it was. But, and he's...
Oh my God, they're so cute. Oh Lord.
Did you look up a real picture or illustration?
A real picture.
All right, let me see.
I'm sending the Google search in the chat so you can click on it and get all of the adorable pictures, including ones where they're holding blackberries between their paws, and it's pretty much the best thing. Oh, they're precious. I want one.
Oh my God.
Right?
Look at how cute these things are. Look at him.
This makes it all even better.
It really does. Oh my God. Look at him with his little handful of berries.
I love it.
Okay, these things are adorable.
Yep.
Oh my God. This one is like this apple is the size of this fucking thing.
Right? Yes.
Okay. That's adorable.
Yay.
So, okay, then they're much more actually rat-like than I expected. Which you're right. It makes it all the more fun that in this story he's like a good, decent rat, and he's so patient with Mole because Mole's
got a little bit of a George Costanza thing going on, where he'll just occasionally like fall into a blind panic and. Just, you have to sort of stop him and shake him and slap him and be like, get yourself together.
He doesn't listen. He's very impulsive. Like the same way he shot out of his little hole at the beginning of the story just because he's like bored and has to do something. That same energy comes over him a couple of different times.
Yeah.
And he ends up, like he really wants to meet Badger, And Rat is just like, you don't just show up at Badger's door unannounced.
One does not simply walk into Badger's hole.
And
he wants to steer the boat at one point and crashes it, and everything goes in the water. And I love how he's just so ashamed of himself. Like right out, he's just like, "Dude, I'm so can we just like pretend this never happened?" And Rat is just like, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it. I love being in the water. It's fine.
It's fine. I'm never going to be mad about being in the water." Oh my God, he's so patient with Mole. He really is. So then they have a great summer. Mole just like doesn't go home, which is never like fully addressed, but it's just like it's fine. We don't need to talk about it.
This is something that comes up in older fiction all the time that I always forget to like talk about, but I note while I'm reading it. The culture of simply going to stay with somebody for long periods that you don't know that well. It's really, really common. And I guess it was, like in an era where traveling took a lot longer, where you would meet people out on travels, especially if you had money. I guess this was like a way to get into society or to expand your like circle or whatever. But I have always just found it so weird when our culture now is like, you don't sleep over my house unless we're besties. That's not how this goes anymore. And the fact once we reach the part where it's clear that he's living with him, I was like, I had to stop and do the same thing and be like, so he just left in the middle of spring cleaning and that's it? He's just gone? Like, did he turn the fucking pilot light on for his stove? Is everything okay there?
Do his neighbors know that he left and never came back? Are they concerned for his well-being? Did he not have any family? They don't seem to have any family either. They all seem to be kind of like living alone, which makes, I guess, the friendship even more valuable and more important because otherwise they're just alone. Yeah. But, did Mole have parents? Are they concerned? He went out one day and...
And, his name is Mole, and if he has parents, are they Mole also? They can't all just be named the name of the animal they are.
It's like Highlander. There can be only one.
Because, it's not later on when he pretends that there's going to be this huge attack on Toad Hall with all of these different... And he's like, they call themselves the Terrible Toads or something. And I'm like, okay, so you're acknowledging that other toads do exist in this universe. But we're just going to say that they all are just not... They all have different names. Yeah, the ones we know are Toad and Rat and Mole, but then there's George and Mike and Tom and probably.
I wonder if there's another Toad in the forest who's having his own adventures with his own friends. Whoever's reading about them also only knows them as Toad and his friends. Because there's only one Toad per story that's being told.
That Toad gets around, man. Look at all the stuff he did. The other thing that I found really wild about the way this is written is that people are in this universe with these animals.
Yes.
Super unexpected.
Yeah. And
did you know that?
I had forgotten. I had completely forgotten. And the way it's treated where they're each aware that, the animal, like Toad and the jailers, for instance, he understands that they are human. And they understand that he's Toad, but nobody seems surprised that Toad can talk and has money and is being tried for crimes. And just,
he's apparently subject to the same criminal justice system as a human being, which is fascinating.
There's not much backstory or explanation for how this is to be. It just is.
Because I was trying to figure out at the start of the story, before any actual people get involved, when Toad invites Rat and Mole to get into this cart that he has, this caravan thing, and he has a horse drawing it, and I was like, all right, a mole and a rat and a toad and a horse? This feels out of proportion. And I was trying to think, are they supposed to be the same size as people? Are they supposed to just be dealing with a huge horse? How does this work?
Well, that's the same thing with the car, right? Toad steals a human's car. So he must be the same size, right?
According to the illustrations, and I actually screenshot one so that I could send it to you, and I forgot to do it beforehand. Toad is about the size of a golden retriever. He is far larger than a real toad, but he's also way smaller than a person. So I sent you two screenshots because there's one of the girl who helps him escape from jail, and she's dressing him. It's hard to see with this, but she's kneeling in front of him, and he's the size of a toddler, maybe. And then there's the him driving, and same, his head barely clears the steering wheel. I don't think that he could make it in a car today where the dashboard is higher and but in those older cars he can manage because there's pretty much no protection in the older car model.
This caption underneath him driving is so funny when he fucking...
Ho ho! I am the Toad, the motor car snatcher, the prison breaker, the Toad who always escapes. Sit still and you shall know what driving really is.
And it's the same car that he stole the first time with the same people.
The fucking audacity.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm going to make a meme where it just says the audacity of this Toad under that illustration of him driving. make some really niche children's book memes.
I'm glad that we read Watership Down first, because when we were reading that, and I was talking about how one of the things I enjoy about it is that it is telling the story from the animal's point of view, but they are still exactly just rabbits,
Right.
doing what rabbits do and thinking and facing the world the way we would imagine rabbits would interact with the world, which is very different from the animals we get in this story, which are like, they have some traits that go with their species, especially when it comes to, there's a little line about rat. One of the reasons why mole is so bored is because rat is a much more of a animal that hibernates during the winter. So he spends most of his days sleeping, and not really in the mood to do anything. And mole is,
I forgot about that being why he's asleep. That's right.
But for the most part, they are little people animals, they cook and they clean and they have hobbies and, money, ability to steal cars.
And, the ability to apparently pass as human, because all he needs is a bonnet and a dress and a basket to carry.
How insulted is he about this getup?
I can't deal with how much he needs to pass and how mad he is when he manages to do it. It's this,
she says something about how they are of similar figure, the washerwoman and Toad, and he is, it's too much. It's just too much. He is beyond insulted. It's so funny.
That's what causes him to fucking undo himself every time. The woman on the barge, her pointing out, oh yeah, you're a washerwoman, whatever. And he's like, how dare you speak to your betters and take me for a washerwoman? You spent 20 minutes telling this woman how good you are at washing clothes, how it's your favorite thing to do, how you're never as happy as you are when you're wrist deep in water, and now you're mad about it? Yeah. And the guy's in the car too when he takes it again, and they're like, oh, a washerwoman who can drive this well, and he's like, fuck you, I'm a washerwoman. Dude, this is the whole thing. That's the whole way you're gonna get out of this. What are you doing?
Oh my god. Yeah, his pride, his ego is... I like to think that when the author was writing this, he had a particular person in mind as he's writing his characters. And
I didn't even think of that.
I read really briefly on his Wikipedia that he had a really important job. He was like a secretary at the Bank of England or something, like a very high status job. And so I have decided that Toad was like a coworker, a boss, someone,
I love it. I love it. Yeah, because, of course, in that era, there's no way he can come out and be like, oh, yeah, this is totally based on a person. But there is, a tone to Toad that feels like he knew exactly who the fuck this Toad was when he started writing this. He was like, fully formed character. It's all set.
And I love, too, that Toad is, so kind of indolent. He's got so much money that he has this reputation for just getting swept up in whatever the latest craze is. So before we actually meet him, he is in his boating craze, and that's what Rat is telling Mole about. But then when they see him for the first time, he's off boats. He's on the cart now.
Fuck boats is basically what he says the first time. He's just so disgusted that Rat would even bring it up, and he basically tells Rat, we're not going to talk about that again.
Yeah, that's old news. That's old news.
Come on, guys.
This caravan is what's popping. And then he bullies them into going on this trip that nobody really wants to go on.
Oh my god. It's shit like this that gets me so mad at him, and that's why he bullies them into going, and then he doesn't want to do any of the work.
How about he sleeps in while they're doing all the chores?
And then he gets up and he's like, see how easy this life is. Meanwhile, they're fucking passed out again with burnt paws from making breakfast and half drowned from going to get water to cook with and wash with. And he just doesn't see it and is like, a beautiful day.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is definitely
do you remember the part when the horse is hey, I know that you guys are friends, but I'm feeling very left out.
That's right.
I'm here, and I'm alive.
So Mole has to go up front
and just like hang out with the horse because the horse is just fucking cranky. Which I just loved it so much. Like, what a weird thing.
I love it though because it checks. Like, if you're going to have animals in this world and they're all able to interact and like think and see what's going on, then it is kind of rude to just treat horse like he's, you know, the help, which is what Toad is basically treating him as. Oh my God! I wonder how horse even got suckered into this. You know,
like, I really want to see. There's a part where Toad is riding on a horse, and I'm sure that there's an illustration. Oh no, there is. But just like the idea of these little creatures, it's going to be like Gideon on horseback when he comes to pick up Mabel at in Gravity Falls. Do you remember that moment, Baby Gideon? And his feet don't even like get halfway down the saddle. Never mind, reach the stirrups.
That's right. Yeah.
Like,
that's right.
How do you control a horse? I guess if you could talk to the horse, you could just be like, go left. Or like, run for our lives. You don't have to like...
I like to think that the horse is kind of like a taxi service. Maybe like an Uber.
Oh my God.
So he knows why he's here. He knows what he's doing. He's been paid for the job, but still, you know, it would be nice if you guys talked to me.
I can put on different music if you don't like what's playing. It's fine. Do you need a bottle of water? I got a bottle of water up here. I have a SoundCloud if you're interested. So Rat and Mole and their little friendship is adorable.
It really
they go
is.
on this trip that Rat starts to get really homesick. Finally, it gets cut short because they get totaled by some asshole in a car who is flying by.
And the horse starts and the cart upends. And they barely, like, make out with their lives. It's a harrowing experience, you know. Their stuff is strewn all over the road. The axle on the cart's all fucked up. And then there's Toad, just in the middle of the road, as though he's been struck by lightning. Going, poop, poop.
I forgot that he does that.
Poop, poop.
Toad, you messy bitch.
He is just dumbstruck. This motor car has come by and upended not just the cart, but his whole sense of self and his whole place in the universe. You know, he is just like laser focused on what was that just went by, to the point where Mole and Rat are trying to clean up, and Rat is considering leaving him just sitting in the road.
I love when Rat gets like this, when he's just like, you know what? Fuck this. Fucking leave him there. And Mole has to be like, it's really dangerous. What if the car comes back? And Rat's finally like, all right, I guess I don't want him to get flattened by an automobile in the middle of the road, but I do this under protest, I'll have you know.
It's so good. Oh, God.
Then we have, like, we depart from that for a little while because it goes into winter. And that's when we have Mole who, like, wanders into the woods.
Yeah.
Rat goes and follows him out, and he has a fucking, like, brace of pistols on his hips when he goes.
He is stacked. He's got a cudgel. He's got a bunch of guns. And he means business. And, like, we could stop and start talking about the weirdness of these little animals being gun owners. But why? Why would we?
I love it, personally. I'm here for that. I am here for tiny little rat-sized pistols and a fucking belt for them and everything. I love it.
So he follows Mole's tracks, because luckily he's got brand new galoshes, so they leave pretty good tracks. And Mole gets lost, because of course he does. And then there are all kinds of things in the woods that he is not ready for. Eyes peering out from the darkness, weird little wedge faces.
Evil little triangular faces. And I was just like, what is that about? Like, that's never really explained.
It's not.
Guess it's supposed to be like stoats and weasels because they have, like,
Yeah.
Kind of a triangular,
That's what I figured. What I don't understand is why the rabbits in this book are so ancient. These rabbits are terrible.
And at one point, Toad is, like, distracting the washerwoman by being like, hey, check out that rabbit there. That'd be good for dinner. And I'm like, the fuck, dude? Like, these are supposed to be y'all's friends, I thought. Like,
no.
I just, the rules here are wild.
They really are.
Saying.
Rabbits are definitely not a part of this particular society. Somebody gets into an argument with a rabbit. I think it's a rat when he's looking for Mole. And he says something like, you guys have got all these burrows, underground, and you could have helped them. And they're just like, why would we do that, though?
Right.
Just, like, really shitty for no reason.
And he, like, replies with something like, I know you weren't blessed with too many brains, but at least there's plenty of you.
Right,
and I was like, oh.
Right. Like, there's some tension that happened we don't know about.
Yeah. Is this like, Are they being excluded and that's why they're in the woods? Like, are they not allowed to be part of society? Is there some sort of, like, class thing happening?
The only thing I can think is that line about how many of you there are. And anything that breeds like that, even with people, we tend to think of as being lower class,
True.
So that's the only thing I can think of is that, they just have all those babies and don't do anything but have babies all day, But other than that, I can't imagine why the writer would have decided that rabbits were not capable of this type of friendship across species.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, I was going to say the woods in general, but then Badger lives in the woods and he's civilized, He's a little bit more common, I guess, in the way that he talks and his home being a lot more simple.
Right. But he's clearly has status because he's considered, very wise, and it's an honor to come see him, and you respect his boundaries. You don't just go popping up,
Right.
Though when they do just go popping up, he's incredibly gracious and invites them in, and he's not like, I thought he was going to yell at them.
Yeah, I did too. I think the fact that it had started snowing and they were clearly lost, he was like, oh, all right, special circumstance. I'm not going to be mad. But it was a moment of me just being like, well, we know badgers are also very large.
Yeah.
And he is supposed to be larger than the others. But according to the illustration of the front, he's like, just basically the size of like a bouncer versus an ordinary person.
Right.
So what they like talk to him about what's going on with Toad here, and he kind of is like, well, it's winter, I'm not doing anything. But then we go around to summer and Toad having acted up, and Badger is fucking over it. He asked them, for news of Toad, and they bring him up to speed and all the stuff that's been going on, and you're right, he's like, yeah, we gotta handle that. But not until winter breaks. Right.
So they all kind of, again, hunker down. And they stay at Badgers, don't they?
For a long time.
Right?
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Until it's a more reasonable time of year to be going out on adventures.
And isn't it on the way home from his place that they run across where Mole lived? I feel like...
I can't remember.
Because it's Christmas.
After. I don't know why
it's definitely after Badger's place.
But
I couldn't remember if it's on the same trip.
I thought it was after the thing that after they get to Toads, but maybe it is before. I was thinking that Mole lived like on the opposite direction of where he had gone into the woods, but that's not based on anything.
Yeah,
like
no.
In my mind, Mole starts like in Philly. And then, like, moves, like, west a little bit, and then west a little bit more. But that's
they take, like, tunnels from Badger, because he talks about how his hole is, like, part of a system of tunnels that were under where there used to be a town. So I think they take tunnels underground and wind up in town, because there's, like, descriptions of seeing people, like, sitting near their windows and reading. Or,
okay.
You know what I mean?
I got you.
And this bit with Mole's home, I was telling you yesterday that I got very emotional because the narrator for the audiobook really plays up how incredibly, like, heart-wrenching it is for him to come across his home and have Rat not really give, like, Rat's distracted. It's not even like he's being a jerk about it. He just doesn't, he's not close enough to see how much this means to Mole. And Mole gets so... The way this is written, I'm just going to read this real quick. Because he smells it as he's walking by. He can't even see it, but he just knows this is where his house is. Now, with a rush of old memories, how clearly it stood up before him in the darkness. Shabby indeed, and small, and poorly furnished, and yet his, the home he had made for himself, the home he had been so happy to get back to after his day's work. And the home had been happy with him, too, evidently, and was missing him, and wanted him back, and was telling him so through his nose, sorrowfully, reproachfully, but with no bitterness or anger, only with plaintive reminders that it was there and wanted him. The call was clear, the summons was plain. He must obey it instantly and go. Bless him. He wants to go home so bad.
Yeah, that feels about what it feels like. You know? It's especially touching because if you think of all the homes you've had that you can't ever get back to, which is something that happens as you get older and older, then it becomes really just like, just yank my heart right out of my chest, why don't you?
Right?
Yeah. And I wonder, like, as a little kid, it can't possibly resonate with you the way it does once you're older.
That's interesting. I wonder that, because kids get so homesick when, like, I, went and stayed with relatives for a couple weeks, and I was, like, ripped apart with homesickness at one point. But I don't know if that's the same exactly, or if as a kid I would just interpret it that way. I don't know.
I think, this is my opinion, when you're a kid and you're homesick, you're missing your parents more than the space. Though you miss, like, your own room and your bed and all that stuff, but really what you're missing is, like, your family.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when you get older, I mean, of course you still miss your family, but then there are, like if I drive past places where I used to live in the city, I always get, like, a pang of just, like, oh, I remember when I lived there. And, it wasn't, like, much to it. It wasn't very fancy, but... And you know what? That could also still just be a pang for family and parents, even as an adult now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I definitely think a pang for family is a thing, especially because so much of what gets me about this scene, once they do go back, is the, like, little Christmas impromptu celebration that they have, which is a huge thing for me. Like, my Grammy and her fixing ups of Christmas was pretty amazing. And the fact that Mole is just missing his home, but also the fact that there's, like, these carolers that come, like, there's all the bits of memory around it, you feel. You know what I mean?
And poor Rat doesn't mean to be insensitive,
No, he didn't at all. And he immediately realizes his mistake. And he's like, oh, all right, well, let's go. Let's go back. And Mole is like, we'll never find it again. There's no possible way. It's over. And Rat is like, if you don't get the fuck on, holy shit, come on. And then they eventually do find it again. And Mole practically, like, falls to the floor. It's filthy. Look at me bringing you here. I have no food to offer you. It's coated in dust. It's so sad and cold. I'm a wretched creature. Jesus.
Oh, he's such a drama queen. He really is.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, goodness.
This illustration of the field mice who are caroling is the most adorable thing. They each have, like, a little scarf. There's, like, a lantern covered in holly. One of them has, like, a muff for his little paws to keep warm. It's the cutest thing.
What are you doing down there?
What's that? Is that a cat?
It was a cat.
The cat hears us talking about mice and is like, what's up? So I'm trying to find the moment when they were all talking about the the Christmas celebrations because I love this so much, and I wanted to just read the little. Let's see. Oh, first of all, there's there's a bunch of songs in this book, and normally I really get bored of that.
Rat,
like Tolkien. Rat really is just his one that he writes about the ducks and their little tails being in the air. And Mole is off to the side, and he just kind of chimes in with, "I don't know about that one, my friend." And Rat does not take offense at all. And it's nah, they're not too sure about it either.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Okay. It was a pretty sight, and a seasonable one that met their eyes when they flung the door open. In the forecourt, lit by the dim rays of a horn lantern, some 8 or 10 little field mice stood in a semicircle, red worsted comforters round their throats, their forepaws thrust deep into their pockets, their feet jiggling for warmth. With bright, beady eyes, they glanced shyly at each other. And then we get to the carol, and it's really pretty, and I kind of want this to be a real carol. Villagers all this frosty tide, let your doors swing open wide. Though wind may follow and snow be beside, yet draw us in by your fire to bide. Joy shall be yours in the morning. Here we stand in the cold and sleet, blowing fingers and stamping feet, come from far away you to greet, you by the biding you joy in the morning. And it's just that overall just description of the cold and wanting to be cozy and inside and having a lovely gathering with everybody, and it's just really nice. I just want Christmas is what I'm saying. It's August. Ugh.
I, on the other hand, am in no rush for Christmas. Just putting it out there.
Not really. But moments like this get me all excited about it. And Rat gets all of his money out and sends off all of these little guys to do a bunch of shopping.
Oh my God. There's some kind of hierarchy in this world that isn't clearly explained.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing wrong with sending the field mice out to do errands and giving them money to do it, but it just seems kind of they don't work for you. You can't just send strangers out to do your bidding.
Well, the thing is, though, that they're basically oh, we would love to feed you and bring you in, your song says. We don't have anything. Can you help us out? Because it's not they just send them and then they sit back.
That's true.
They're out here opening bottles and mulling some wine and getting the fire built up and preparing their own thing. And just this one just goes out and does a little bit of shopping. That's not bad, right?
Excuse me.
Under the generalship of Rat, everybody was set to do something or fetch something. In a very few minutes, the supper was ready, and Mole, as he took head of the table in a sort of a dream, saw a lately barren board set thick with savory comforts, saw his little friends' faces brighten and beam as they fell to without delay, and then let himself loose, for he was famished indeed, on the provender so magically provided, thinking what a happy homecoming this had turned out after all. As they ate, they talked of old times, and the field mice gave him the local gossip up to date, and answered as well as they could the 100 questions he had to ask them.
I love how important gossip is and news of the day is throughout the story, right? It's always about, so tell me what's been going on while I was gone, What's that toad up to? What's been going on since I've been over at Rats?
Fucking toad.
It's such a, and it's gossip, but it doesn't feel malicious. It just feels very much like what it's like when you live in a small community. When you're all maybe up in each other's business a little bit too good or too much for comfort, but it's just so normal and natural that you can't escape it. It's just how it is. Yeah, whenever I talk to my mom on the phone, I always ask her, so what's going on down there? What's going on? And she always has something to tell me.
Well, you don't want to be out of it, because then you go on a visit and you unknowingly step in it when you're, talking about something that's, actually a really sore subject. And how else are you going to know to,
right.
be tactful about certain things.
That's a really good point. It's how because there's like rules to a society, like there's rules to engagement, and if you are coming out of a long absence, you don't know what's what, and you'll really, can fuck some shit up. So someone has to like give you the lay of the land,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was like probably my favorite part of the whole book, was this little Christmas celebration with them all at his house. And I love Rat just talking about how adorable the house is. Like every moment he can, he's giving him a compliment about how it's built so well, and look how handy everything is.
There really is a lovely friendship at the core of this story,
Yeah.
Which, it's very sweet. It's been a long time since I think I've read anything quite this wholesome,
Yeah, I think that was part of what made me so emotional when I was listening to the audiobook in the middle of a Target and almost started crying, was when his heart is breaking because his house is right there. But it specifically says it never even occurred to him to abandon his friend and go on to his own home without him. He, of course, was going to stick with Rat.
Right.
And just, and he tells him later and, like, confesses to him how he's feeling and how, like, awful this was. But he doesn't just go off on his own.
Right.
And just that loyalty is just so deep and sweet and it's just precious.
And he doesn't really begrudge Rat either. He's not like, I can't go because of you.
Right. There's no blame being laid there about that.
It's a choice that Mole is making, and he's not regretting his choice. He's just sad for what the choice means, which both things can be true at the same time, There's no, like, resentment or bitterness towards Rat. There's just the sadness that he can't go home right now.
Precious. So, alright, I guess we have to go to fucking Toad. So, it's summertime, and word has gotten out that Toad has been out here fucking things up.
He really has. He's on,
he
like,
has gotten into, like, right.
3 times in the hospital. All these fines.
I'm trying to find the specific thing, because, and he's gotten, like, taken, like, carted off by police a couple times. But it's not until the summer that Badger is feeling like he's ready to step in and do something. And when he decides to step in, he is not kidding around.
Yeah.
Badger shows up and sees Toad in his fucking driving gloves and goggles and his, like, coat that he's got, and just looks at him and is like, you fucking idiot, and gets his friends to hold this fucker down and pull all of these stupid accessories off him. And I love that at first Toad is just like, what are you doing? Stop, get off me. But then it turns out that once he is divested of all that stuff, he actually feels less awesome. Like, it's specifically said that he's like, kind of feels like he's at a disadvantage now that he's like out of his finery. And I love that Badger, I'm not sure how much thought Badger actually put into that, other than all of this represents what I'm mad at you about. But I like to think that Badger knows how Toad's mind works and is like, we need to get him out of this because that shit's giving him a weird power. We need to take it away from him.
Yeah, I like that it seems to be an insight into Toad's character that he will feel less powerful or at least more vulnerable if he is not done up in something, that, because so much of his sense of self-worth comes from his money and what he's able to buy and his luxuries, and his obsessions, that if you strip that away, he will be much easier to deal with, which turns out to be true.
Indeed. And they basically have a intervention.
And
they're just like, dude, what are you doing?
They put him under house arrest without really the authority to do that, I don't think. They just decide.
They have the authority of God himself.
And they end up having to sacrifice their summer to babysit him, to make sure he stays in the house, that he doesn't get in any more trouble. And, of course, Toad is highly resentful because, he's grown and these friends of his have just decided that he can't be trusted anymore.
I should be free to fuck up my life as I see fit.
And then, who is on duty? Is it Badger?
It's Rat.
It's
who
Rat.
fucks up.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised by. If I were going to, like, predict...
You think it would be Mole, right?
What? Of course,
Same.
of course. Mole's the one who later on, once Toad is back after all his adventures, Mole is the one that's like, what a smart Toad you are, and Rat's in the background like, fucking shh, what are you doing? And so I feel like in this moment it feels a little weird that Rat falls for this, but it's fine.
And then after he's gone, this must be Badger, who's like, well, shit, I didn't want to spend my whole summer doing this anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Mole actually calls him a bit of a duffer, which I love so much.
Oh, God, that's right.
He's like, look, buddy, I get... everybody fucks up, but, like, honestly, what the fuck?
That was the real me shit you just pulled. I'm very disappointed in you.
So, yeah, Toad goes out and fucking he steals a car, crashes it, causes a whole fucking ruckus, and gets sentenced to 20 years in prison. Which just...
That seems excessive.
Excuse me? Like, don't get me wrong, he deserves to be punished for real, but, like...
20 years?
He didn't fucking murder somebody, like,
a car
you know?
wreck? It seems like a lot. But you know what? Maybe the people are sick of Toad shit, too, and we just don't know it.
Yeah, that's true.
There could be a whole other story that happened that we just aren't privy to, and they're like, this goddamn Toad, I swear to God. One more time.
Oh, and when Badger turns up to, like, start this intervention, Toad has a car that he just ordered that's, like, sitting there all, like, freshly painted, and Badger, like, tells the dude who just delivered it, oh, he doesn't want this, take it away.
That's right.
And I couldn't help but be like, I feel like that's not how that is, like, I'm pretty sure he had to prepay for this. That's not how this is going to go, my friend. But, it's fine. So... he's out here wasting away in prison, and his friends have no idea where he is.
Yeah.
They know he escaped, and they know he's probably up to no good, and that's it.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that the news of him being convicted and thrown in jail for 20 years doesn't travel.
Well, see, that's the thing, too, again, about how these two worlds exist, side by side, this human world and this animal world. You would think there would be animals who lived around the prison would be talking about it, because Toad is like an upper class person in this community. It's kind of like a celebrity a little bit, like a Kardashian.
Oh God, so much has been made clear with that one sentence.
So it's like his doings and his exploits are like talk of the town. So it's really weird to me that his arrest doesn't travel. It doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe
he got arrested too far away.
Maybe we
don't know how long he drove. I have a hard time thinking that he got that far.
He has a pretty arduous journey back. It seems to take.
Yeah, that's true. It takes a long time. Yeah.
So he's locked up for 20 years, and that just seems like a lot.
It's just crazy. and the people who are like deciding how long it's going to be for him are specifically like, all right, we need to really fuck his life up. Like, they're setting out to make this be a bit excessive on purpose.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be like, this can't be his first time running afoul of the law in this place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
He's got like a 3 strikes rule or something going on.
So he winds up like befriending this young girl who has an aunt who is a washerwoman. And I love that she likes him, but she also at one point she's trying to explain to him how she's going to help him escape, and he's talking right over her.
Yeah.
She has to be like, oh, okay, listen, you need to stop because this is one of your biggest faults is the fact that you just don't stop talking.
I love
and
too when
explains.
He's upset about the washerwoman get up. And she's just like, well, if you're too good to be a washerwoman, I guess you could just stay in prison. Like,
how about that?
I'm trying to help you, not the other way around. And she doesn't mind telling him that at all.
Yeah, she is sympathetic to a point that I don't understand with helping him escape. But also calls him out when it really needs to happen, which I do appreciate.
Oh, excuse me. And she's the jailer's daughter, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, who knows what her motivation is here?
Maybe she's just trying to piss off her dad.
I thought that a little bit.
She's going to date Toad.
Oh, my God. Nobody wants to date Toad.
Oh, what a disaster that would be. So he escapes, and the first thing that he does is cons his way onto a
train.
He's
got he doesn't realize he doesn't have any money. Which he
doesn't grab his shit. He just he always has it on him in his waistcoat pocket, so he's just like reaching for that pocket and then like, oh wait, fuck. Yeah. These clothes are different. There's no pockets at all. What the hell am I supposed to do? And
I was surprised he didn't just, demand to be let on the train in very Toad fashion. He manages to manipulate the, it's not the engineer, it's the coal guy or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. I think it is the engineer, though, isn't it? Because he owns his own.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's the first guy that he just tries to be like, let me on and I'll pay you back. And the dude's like,
yeah. And then the people in line behind him are so irritated, they just push him out of line because it's been taking up too much time. So I guess it's the engineer who says his clothes are always dirty, so he would make a deal with the washwoman.
And then they start getting chased. And Toad finally is like, all right, look, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm not a washerwoman. I'm a Toad.
I'm the Toad.
I am the Toad. I fucked up, I'll admit it. But also, I need your help. And this guy, is like, all right, first of all, tell me why you got put in prison. And Toad's like, I mean, I just borrowed a car real quick. It's no big deal.
It's really nothing. Everything was blown out of proportion, if you ask me.
And this dude is like, all right, look, I'm not going to lie to you. You did fuck up. And I think that you maybe deserve to be in jail. But we're kind of in this together at this point, and I'm not going to just leave you high and dry. So I'll tell you what, I will drop you off. And I was like, all right, that's fair. He's not going to be like, oh, you obviously were unjustly, he's like, no, you pulled some fucking, you did crimes. That's what you get.
Yeah, he's much more sympathetic than I expected him to be, because Toad did lie to him to get on the train. He did make this guy an accomplice without his, participation, his agreement to be an accomplice. And the guy's like, you know what? It's fine. I'll help you out a little bit. It's fine. It's really not a big deal. I'm like, it's kind of a big deal, though.
It's pretty big deal. There's and he describes at one point when he looks back and he's like, oh, this train that's coming after us, it's covered in constables and they're waving truncheons and they have pistols and there are some clearly plainclothes detectives and there's this, it's like, I'm imagining this clown car of people hanging out the side shaking their fists. And he's just like, whatever. We'll figure it out. All right, I guess.
Also, you're on a train track. You're not going to lose them.
That's, honestly, the fact that they were being chased on another train was the most surprising part to me. Because I didn't know that was a thing. That you could just, I assume if you're chasing a train, you're in a car beside the train, or a horse, or a helicopter.
That's how you should be. But instead... we get a whole other train.
Get another one. And then what, jump from one to the other? What are you going to do?
Eventually, you're going to come to either the end of the line, or you're just going to go in a big circle over and over.
Yeah, I guess.
So there's no way out of that.
Can they, lasso it?
My God.
Can they grab onto the train ahead of them and, stop it and hold it back?
This is almost a
With like a-
cartoon, so I guess they kind of could.
Grappling hook. That's the word I want.
Excuse me.
But Toad gets away and is wandering around, no money, no food, still in these clothes, doesn't know what to do. At first, he's like really proud of himself that he got out of that train that was like a scrape that he managed to escape, and he just keeps on crediting himself and his brilliance, even though he had nothing to fucking do with it.
He's so proud of himself.
Oh, he makes me so angry. Between taking credit for shit that he didn't do and his penchant for just sitting around while everybody else does like domestic labor, he is such a fucking dude. And I think that's part of why I just like hate him so much. But he eventually comes across that barge woman, and she can tell he's full of shit and kind of tricks him into doing a bunch of washing.
Yeah.
There's an amazing illustration of him giving her the stink eye while he's doing washing. You know what? I'm going to find it. I'm going to text it to you while we're talking about it because it's so good. And eventually they just get in such a fight that she chucks him
Right.
off the boat. Which I just think is the best thing. Like, you know,
Like,
there really is a point where you just want to fucking get somebody out of your face.
We have all been waiting the whole book for somebody to have just had it enough with
Yep.
him. And this is when we finally get it, and it's so well earned.
It is, though.
That you're just like, she really had no choice. What else was she going to do? She going to let him stay on the boat talking that craziness? No. He had to go overboard.
And he's like, I'm going to get back at you. And that's the thing that gets me so mad at him. Is his constant attitude of, I'm going to get you back. When nobody has done shit wrong to him. You have put yourself here.
Yeah.
He even thinks it later when he's finally home and his friends have just helped him reclaim his own home. And because they didn't save breakfast for him. He's like, I'm going to get you back. They got you your fucking house back, you psychopath. What are you talking about? I just sent you the image of Angry Toad, and I can't wait for... He looks so mad.
Oh my God.
That angry eye, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm holding it up. He's just so fucking pissed. It's really good.
That's amazing.
With the bonnet on.
He's got little soap bubbles around his head.
Yes.
Oh, God. So when he goes overboard, is that when he bumps into Rat and Mole again because they just happen to be rafting by?
Not yet. This is when he steals her horse.
Oh.
And then bumps into the gypsy man and sells it.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
He just be stealing shit. Toad just is walking through this land, taking whatever he wants from whoever, using it for his own purposes. Just, oh.
And then he gets home and he's like, somebody took my house? Who the fuck do they think they are? And I'm like, they think they're Toad, I guess, buddy. I don't know what to tell you, mister. I'm going to literally take and sell shit. But yeah, you don't get to be mad about this, right, my friend.
Yeah, he is, he can't believe the nerve. Who would do such a thing? While he's been doing that same exact thing all up and down this book.
Yep.
Oh, God.
So when he sells it, he's got money. He's really feeling himself. And then as he's in the middle of, again, writing a fucking song about how
great he is.
He's the handsomest, smartest Toad in all the history books. Nobody has ever been as intelligent and as witty as him. Then that car that he had stolen that started this whole thing overtakes him, and he starts to fucking panic and be like, well, jig's up. But they don't recognize him, and they offer to give him a ride, and he's like, ho-ho. And this is when he steals the car. But he doesn't steal it. He, like, fakes his way into the driver's seat. Goes completely bananas. They realize who he is because he tells them. And they, like, don't try and get him to stop the car first. They're in the middle of, like, trying to wrest the steering wheel away from him, I guess. And he crashes into a pond and goes flying because he's small.
Oh my God.
And he just books it. And he thinks again, I got away, until he sees all these cops coming at him because these people have had it at this point. And that's when he like falls into the river and floats right into Rat's hole.
God. Oh my God.
So that's when he finds out that his home has been stolen because a lot of people don't really approve of the way he has been conducting himself.
Yeah, it was Badger and Mole in the Toad Hall. And then the more dangerous animals showed up and kind of just took over. And have been living there.
Fucking Rat tells him the story about how they came in, they beat your friends badly with sticks and cursed at them and threw them out. And Toad laughs.
That's right.
Listen, no, I hate him.
I forgot he laughed. That's not nice. That's not okay.
Nope. He's called by the author a, quote, unfeeling creature. Which I think is a thing that I am definitely going to use in Facebook arguments from now on. I'm going to call people unfeeling creatures.
Just call them toads.
You unfeeling toad. I like it, actually. That's fucking effective. You would be drawn up short if somebody called you that, right?
I absolutely would.
Excuse me.
I would just be like, whoa. There's no need to. Everybody calm down.
So they organize, with the help of Badger, to go in there and take it back. And Mole comes up with this genius idea of planting a seed that there's going to be this fucking army of animals that comes to take it. And y'all better be ready. And they start scrambling and going in too many directions and not being very well organized and getting super paranoid. And there's infighting between like the weasels and the stoats and whatnot. And they sneak in via one of Badger's little tunnels. And they just have to like do their initial attack. And all of these motherfuckers are just like, bye-bye. They just like bail immediately.
None of them are like willing to stand their ground here.
No.
It was like they all appreciated that they got some free shit and it wasn't that much of a hassle, but it's not worth any extra real effort. It's definitely not worth dying or getting hurt, so we're just going to bounce now.
Yeah.
And that feels right.
Yeah, that seems fair to me. And throughout all this, you know, Mole's good idea, Toad is too stupid to get why this was a good idea. And is just really pissy about how Mole's getting credit and, like, Badger keeps praising him. And he's just really salty overall about the fact that, like, I fought too, but he's not saying anything nice to me.
He is
like,
so self-centered.
Oh, my God.
Oh, and it's getting to be towards the end of the book. And you can't believe this motherfucker is still, like, where is his lesson that he's supposed to be learning? It should be any minute now.
And that's the one criticism I have of this book, is that Toad kind of, like, does this about face that I don't feel is, like, rings true at all. Where they tell him, all right, you really should throw a ball and kind of, you know, let everybody know you're back, establish that this is your fucking house, just generally, like, you know, set things straight and reestablish yourself in the community.
And also thank your friends.
Right. Or you could just get them back because the toast was cold.
Oh my God.
But he like writes, he at first is super mad that they want him to spend this beautiful morning writing invitations. And then when he finally agrees to do it, it's only because he's going to fucking have it be the Toad Show. And do like 6 different speeches and 4 songs and toasts and fucking get somebody in and make a portrait of him before they arrive. Like, it's just so ridiculously over the top. And they see the way he's acting and fucking corner him and they're like, listen, buddy, I don't know what you think tonight is going to be, but you're not going to speech.
Right.
You're not going to sing. No, and he's like, can I do one song? And they're like, No.
You're going to sit there, be humble, and appreciate your friends, and pay for this damn party.
And he's super cranky about it, and he goes and he's like getting ready, and then he gets this weird smile on his face, and all of a sudden he goes down to the party, and he's Mr. Humble. And everybody's like, what's up with Toad? What's going on with this guy? You see this? This isn't the parties he used to throw. And they try and get him to sing, and they try and get him to do a speech. And he's like, no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden he's like reformed, and that's the end of the story. And he's better from then on.
So you're not buying that last minute turnaround?
I'm not buying that one single solitary bit. As far as I'm concerned, now Toad is simply living a double life, where he's acting this humble dude, but he's got like a second Toad Hall somewhere on the other side of town where he cuts loose and acts a fool, and there's going to be, or maybe he like pretends to be a frog. It's Frog Hall.
Nobody
will
be able to figure out that brilliant disguise.
Listen, if people could look at him and think he's a washerwoman,
anything
people will believe anything.
I like to think that Toad learned a lesson, but he is not a completely different Toad. There's no 180. But I like to think that he was able to hold his shit in for one night, which is like a huge leap in the right direction for Toad. But the next day he was back on his bullshit.
They say though that that things pass and people remark on how different he is.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like if your friend's helping you to reclaim your home isn't enough for you to realize that you let things get too far and don't appreciate your friends. I really don't know what to tell you.
I mean, you can't go through life crashing 7 and 8 cars, stealing cars, breaking out of prison. You can't. There's no way to live a life, Toad. You know this guy.
No, and he acts like this is such a bragging rights. Yeah, I got arrested for crashing a car and then I broke out of prison. And imagine somebody telling you that shit in person. Are you going to be impressed, or are you going to be like, what the fuck is going on with this person?
Why would you think I would want to be your friend after you tell me all this?
Yeah, oh, I'm so daring. You're an idiot. You're clearly stupid.
The one thing I am sad about is we don't get to find out what Toad's next obsession is. Because even if he's a nice guy, I feel like that's a part of his personality that doesn't go away. I'm really curious what his next thing is. What else could have come along that he would see?
Maybe being humble is his new obsession. Yeah. And that's why that worked out that way. That's the latest fad, is not taking credit for things.
See how long that lasts before he's blinded by something else.
Oh, God.
But
go ahead.
Nope.
No, you first.
I was wrapping up, so you go.
I was just going to say there was one other bit that I forgot to mention that was very unexpected, which was Rat and Mole running into Pan.
Oh, my God, yeah, how about that? It's
weird, right?
It's this little bit of, Pan is protecting, who is it?
The little otter baby.
The otter baby.
Who's named Portly?
Portly, yeah. Oh, my God. That's the only bit
Rude.
of that. Yeah. That's the only little bit of that you get in the whole story, right? It's anything spiritual or mythological or anything. And it's a really quick moment. What did you think of that, though?
I loved it. It was really strange and unexpected, but considering the way this author has written nature and written magical kinds of moments that don't have actual magic, the inclusion of it wound up feeling kind of a piece with the way this author seems to approach describing the world. Right. But I really liked it. What did you think?
There was a thing on the wiki that said that he wasn't actually a naturalist, but he had a deep appreciation for nature, and when he was writing the story, I didn't pick up on this at all, I'm not gonna lie, but he said that there were elements of Pan throughout the whole book, just very small wisps of magic, and you kind of said it a little bit there just now, these little moments of magic that weren't actually magic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
and then he had kind of done that on purpose, and it was leading to that moment where you could have like an actual pan is like there, and the animals see it, and then it's over, and the animals, because if I'm not wrong, they kind of forget that they've seen that, right?
Pan takes the memory away. Yeah.
So I liked it a lot too.
And takes it away, and there's like a line about like, so that you won't remember and have it be overshadowing moments of joy later in life, basically. Like this memory is so beautiful that you'll never be able to get it again, which feels kind in its way.
Listen. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good pick. I forgot what a sweet little book it was. You know.
Yeah, I'm so happy that it was on the list because, like I said, I kind of had picked it up and just gone through it as a kid, but it didn't grab me that much then. And I understand why this is seen as a story for children because of it being about animals that walk and talk and wear clothes and go riding horses and but there's something weirdly adult about it, about how it's very like, if you set aside what goes on with Toad and reclaiming his home, this isn't a super plot driven story.
No.
And I don't tend to like them when they're this meandering usually. But the beauty of it really got me. And I don't know, I'm definitely going to be coming back to this, I think. And the audiobook for me, like you said, you didn't really get into the audiobook, but I loved it. Yeah. There's also a couple different versions of it, but you have the same one that I had because and the narrator's voice is so soothing. And when he's talking about the river and then Christmas and everything, I was just like, oh, this is gorgeous. So yeah, big thumbs up. Glad you guys, pointed this one out as an option. And thank you for agreeing to cover it with me, even though you're not feeling good, and it's been a long week, to put it mildly.
My pleasure. I'm gonna sign off and then go,
crash. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much. Those of you who were hanging out with us here, nobody really commented, but that's okay. And we're gonna have this be a bit of a short one this time around. Let me know what you thought of our conversation and when you found this book and what you think of it. And we will be seeing you in a couple weeks with Imajica. That'll be me and Candace covering that one. So stay tuned.
Regular book club, right?
Yes, that's the main book for August. So it's a biggin. I got a lot of reading to do ahead of me. So, all right, guys. Thank you again. And see you soon. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.